Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, the NYU Rory Meyers College of Nursing, along with Montefiore Health System and Albert Einstein College of Medicine and JASA, have partnered up to train healthcare professionals in providing age-friendly care for older adults in the Bronx. Then we sit with a representative from Chinatown Soup, a creative community advancing art, justice, historic preservation, and civic engagement group in downtown New York. After that, we take a look back at an interview with Senior Counsel of Sustainability for Consumer Reports to learn more about the cost of climate change. And finally, a once truck driver and delivery courier quit his job to pursue his dreams. The now stylist and creative director talks about the path he took to get where he is now in his career. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, July 30th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. The NYU Rory Meyers College of Nursing received a $5 million grant to strengthen the workforce caring for older adults in the Bronx. The federally funded initiative aims to assist and train 5,000 health professionals and nursing assistants. Dr. Tara Cortez of NYU Rory Meyers College of Nursing, Dr. Amy Ehrlich of Montefiore Health System and Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and Paola Ogando of JASA join me to discuss this collaborative effort. I want to thank you all so much for joining me to discuss this.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Now, through NYU, Dr. Cortez, you are leading the effort toward an initiative that will train 5,000 health professionals. Can you tell me more about this effort and why it's needed?
I'm happy to, and thank you so much for having us here today. This really builds so nicely on the work of the Hartford Institute for Geriatric Nursing, also known as HIGN at NYU Rory Meyers College of Nursing, because our work at HIGN really is to educate the workforce, educate legislators, educate the community on the unique care of older adults to promote better aging, healthier aging, and quality health care. So we are so excited about this opportunity to educate 5,000 healthcare providers across the Bronx. We will be educating physicians, nurses, social workers, pharmacists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, certified nursing assistants, community health workers, just to name a few. Anyone who touches an older adult in the community is going to get some education. We are focused also where we think the most important care is given for older adults, and that is not in the hospital. It is in the community, whether they be living in their home, whether they be living in a skilled nursing facility or in assisted living. They require health care, and the kind of health care they get is so important to maintaining healthy aging and keeping them at their highest level of potential. It's needed because in healthcare profession training and education, people learn how to care for adults. Caring for an 80-year-old or a 70-year-old is not like caring for a 30 or 40-year-old. It's a very different kind of care. It's important that people are educated and trained to understand the uniqueness of that kind of care.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Dr. Ehrlich, what is Montefiore's role in this, and how did the partnership with everyone kind of begin?
First, thanks for having us. It's so wonderful to be here with the three of us, to have a social worker, a nurse, and a physician together partnering on this grant, because that's what it takes to care for older adults. It requires a team. So let me just tell you who I am. So I'm the Chief of Geriatrics at Montefiore and Albert Einstein College of Medicine. But what is geriatrics? So I'm a geriatrician. So I had specialized training. I'm a physician, a regular internal medicine, specialized training in the care of older adults. So geriatricians focus on the common conditions and syndromes that face older adults as they age. For example, falls. Up to a third of community dwelling older adults fall every year, and they have falls with injury. So how do you prevent falls? How do you take care of somebody who falls? And what about patients with dementia? Did you know that the Bronx is one of 3 highest prevalence of Alzheimer's disease in the country, along with Dade County and one of the other counties in Maryland? So we have specialized programs. How do you screen people for dementia? How do you then treat them? And how do you care not for just the person, but their caregivers is such an important part of what we do. So part of what we're doing as geriatricians is we have to train other health professionals in the care of older adults and spread the knowledge that we have for the whole team so we can efficiently and sensitively, with kind of patient-oriented care, take care of our frail older adults.
Thank you. Now, Paola, thank you so much for being here once again. Can you just talk about, some of the challenges, just older adults face, and especially in a severely underserved borough like the Bronx?
Thank you, Kibin. Thank you for having me. I want to start by saying, and I would like to introduce myself. I am Paola Ogando, a program director of JASA Health Services. And JASA is the leading social service agency in New York City, serving more than 40,000 older adults aging in place with all different sorts of services. And I will get into that in a second. But I do see the challenges that our older adults are facing in our underserved boroughs, and that is lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge that there are services available for them. A lot of our older adults don't have or have limited support from family members or from a care partner who can kind of guide them in the services that are available for them and that they're entitled to. And as well, a lot of them are homebound. They're not able to necessarily get out there to find out the services that are available to them. And that's why I'm so proud to work for an organization like JASA, who has been serving older adults for over 50 years now. Over 40,000 in New York City. And one of the many services that we have is affordable housing, older adult centers, mental health services for older adults as well. We also have APS, Adult Protective Services, elder abuse education, and access to older adult centers in the community. So,
thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about your organization. Now,
you.
I definitely want to talk about, age-friendly care, the term, basically, Dr. Cortez, can you tell us a little bit more about the term age-friendly care and why it's important to recognize this in health?
Age-friendly care became a concept about 6 years ago, and it's kind of spreading across the country. We see it more. There's 1,500 hospitals across the United States that are designated as age-friendly hospitals. The concept of age-friendly grew out of research, evidence that pointed to the fact that there are probably 4 factors that most influence the care, the quality care, and healthy outcomes for older adults. And I'm going to go into each one of them, but it's what matters: medication, mentation, and mobility. So what matters? What matters to the older adult? What is the most important thing to them? We used to have provider-centric care where it was up to the doctor or the nurse or the social worker to tell you what was the best for you. It's really the person who should determine what matters to me. I might think that there's a medication that is the best medication for you to be taking because of your disease. You may say, I really don't want to take that because it's going to make me very sleepy, it's going to make me lethargic, I'm not going to want to get up and do things. That's your right. So it's what really matters. What quality of life do they want? The second one, medications. We really do over-medicate our older adults. We've seen people who have gone from 14 medications a day down to 2 with very good, thoughtful physician and nurse practitioner thinking of how do we narrow this down, what do they really need to be on, and is there duplication? So over-medication is a problem, and that needs to be taken into consideration. Mobility, as Dr. Ehrlich mentioned, falls is very important. If you have a person who falls, their chances of having disability or moving into a nursing home increases. So make sure that they are mobile, and if they're not, give them what they need. And the final one, mentation, the 4 M's, the final one, mentation, is all about depression, dementia, and delirium. Depression is very common in older adults and the most unrecognized condition. So it needs to be screened for. And we do know that approximately 1 out of 2 people over the age of 85 do have some sort of dementia. So they need to be screened, they need to be cared for appropriately. And delirium often occurs in older adults when they have an infection or some process going on that's not normal. So that's what age-friendly healthcare is all about.
Thank you so much for explaining that and clarifying and kind of talking about what we need to do better, for our community of older adults. So thank you so much for that. Dr. Ehrlich, I'd really love to hear from you, basically talking about the Bronx and how it lacks healthcare resources. How will this $5 million toward the program address shortages of healthcare professionals specializing in the care of older adults?
Great question. So there's not just a shortage of geriatricians, which are physicians taking care of older adults. There's a shortage of nurses. There's a shortage of social workers. There's a shortage of home health care workers. So our goal is to have everyone learn something about older adults based around the 4 M's that you heard about. So for example, every older adult should be screened for cognitive impairment, for dementia. And then if you identify it, you then have to take care of the patient and their caregiver. For example, they may be entitled to services from JASA that they don't know about. They may be entitled to have Meals on Wheels. We have people who have significant cognitive impairment wear wandering bracelets so that if they wander, somebody can identify them. They may be entitled, may be eligible for additional entitlements. So, and the caregivers are so stressed taking care of these older adults. So we want to then take care of the caregivers, have them have caregiver support groups and other services. So we want to train the doctors in the community to screen for dementia and then refer them appropriately. But we're also training the healthcare workers. So Montefiore Health System has the Healthcare Worker Institute, which is a large, really innovative training program for healthcare workers where it employs workers from within the Bronx and then trains them. So we want that institute to include a curriculum in older adults. So our JASA social workers are going to be partnering with both nursing and physicians to train the community health workers on caring for older adults. So we're going across the board training everybody on how to care.
That's amazing. And then kind of expanding on that, Paola, can you just let us know what role, do community-based organizations play in supporting older adults in the Bronx, and how does this initiative build upon that?
Oh yes, for sure. Community-based organizations are super important and are a vital part of our older adults' life, especially an organization such as JASA. So for example, JASA can definitely guide an older adult person to realizing the services that are available to them, that they're entitled to, and that can help them age in place, at home, in their community, with dignity and autonomy. And it makes me really excited to have this partnership that goes hand in hand, because we will be able to continue to train healthcare professionals in the age-friendly care that we have been practicing for quite a while now, even further. And I think it's going to be the perfect match to have that social service aspect and that healthcare aspect come together. And the work that I have been doing in the partnership that the Center for the Aging Brain at Montefiore has with JASA, as their lead social worker, I have been witnessing being part of an interdisciplinary team that guides our older adults and their care partners in the services that they're entitled to and the care that they so deserve.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to say also, it's so lovely to see, different just pillars, of health kind of come together and support our older adults. So I definitely want to mention that. Now, Dr. Cortez, can you just let everybody know where they can go to find more information about this program? And if they have an older adult in their life that they want to kind of be a part of this, what can they do?
We will have a web page. It will be on the HIGN.org website on the GWEP program, and all of the resources available under the GWEP program will be there. I think what we've seen here today is the perfect exhibit of caring for older adults as a team sport. And it takes all of us together and to come together and really provide the kind of care that keeps people healthy, living at home, where they can have the best quality of life.
Well, I want to thank you all so much once again for joining us and having this really important conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
To learn more about the Geriatrics Workforce Enhancement Program, please go to the website on the screen below. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Hey Creative Family, my name is Timothy Coleman and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
Welcome back. Established in 2014, Chinatown Soup is an organization that has created an art space in downtown neighborhood of New York City. The organization focuses on advancing art, justice, historic preservation, and civic engagement. Artist Victor Castro joins me to discuss Chinatown Soup's 10-year milestone and his journey with the organization as an artist. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about Chinatown Soup and the community it has formed over the years?
Yeah, so Chinatown Soup is a creative collective that was formed about 10 years ago now off of Orchard Street. It's all about civic engagement, grassroots movements towards what's happening in activism, but also in art, and speaking to that through art.
That's amazing. Now, can you talk about Chinatown Soup and basically how it mentions how economic forces and government policies drive corporate luxury expansion and displaced resident, which I think is kind of an amazing thing that a place that's kind of centered around art is even focusing on those topics.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how the organization uses art to address political or societal issues?
Yeah, so the front half of Chinatown Soup is a rotating gallery space, and then the back half is more of the community center, which also acts as a cafe, but also a shop. And so the back half of Chinatown Soup is often used as a community center at night to really have these meetups with people who are local and also visiting to talk about these things, because it is really scary. It's like what Rivington and Orchard looked like 10 years ago, even 15 years ago compared to now. The disparity is terrifying. And the businesses who are still there, who haven't shuttered, are watching it change every day. And it's one of those things that we have to keep talking about and not really take our eye off of, because it's one of those things in cities like New York, it's kind of progressively getting worse. So we kind of have to be on top of the ball constantly.
And kind of having that idea in mind, can you talk about the importance of artists kind of using their platform, any type of platform, to kind of talk about social injustice? I know this isn't something that's new. This has always been a thing.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit more as an artist, what you've seen in that regard?
Yeah, so one of the things I love about Chinatown Soup the most is the area. It's in an area called Dime Square, which is kind of a riff on Times Square, but also it's very self-referential. It's what people would call post-hipster, but it's a place where people are meeting to talk about things that are important. And a lot of the artists that have been at Soup, whether it's visiting or they have an artist residency there, their eyes are always on what's happening in terms of geopolitical stuff, activism, things that are local but also global, and kind of helping mobilize each other. Because everything that we've gone through the past couple of years, it is a trauma. It's very exhausting, and it can be super easy to burn out. So having this collective of artists, having this collective of people who are not only active socially, but mentally, who are moving with love in their mind. It's super key and pivotal, and that's really a big part of what keeps me there. I want to be at a place where I know people have like interests and values, but I also want to be in a place where I'm challenged. I meet people who don't think like me, people who are considered aggressive or intense, other side of the aisle, things like that. Like, those things don't go away. We have to talk about them and face them and have the uncomfortable conversation through art, through community meetups, through collective groups to move forward. Otherwise, we get stuck in a circle of hate and it solves nothing.
And I think that art is an amazing, outlet for a lot of people. So I'm really glad to hear that, there's more than just what meets the eye. There's kind of a deeper message to a lot of the art. So that's pretty amazing. Now, what also is amazing is that Chinatown Soup will be celebrating its milestone of 10 years on Orchard Street. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so for 10 years, we're making a tarot deck. So a big part of Chinatown Soup in the past year or two has been Spirit Soup, which is an offshoot of that. And basically meeting where mystical and holistic intervene, or not intervene, but meet in the middle, like the Venn diagram of that. So our tarot deck features 22 artists who are dear to Chinatown Soup from the past 10 years to contribute art that not only speaks socially about what's going on, but also taps into the occult and the major arcana, the minor arcana, and just kind of mixes it all up like a melting pot.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but is this kind of a part of the Moon Magic Circle? It sounds
Yes.
like it might be kind of similar.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
We've recently started having a full moon circle, which is a community ritual that's open to people of all faiths, creeds, religions, practices, to kind of talk about what's happening in the sky, what's happening politically, and how do those things sometimes coincide with each other. Planetary transits are very important in a lot of different practices. So we like to kind of meet people where they are and get them all in one group and kind of have fun and engage and like I said, meet people you probably wouldn't have met otherwise, because that's really a big part of, for us, grassroots starts small and like we have to start at the bottom, not the top down.
Okay, and then for somebody like me, honestly, what would that kind of consist of? Like, what can somebody expect if they go to one of these events?
So we talk about what's happening in the sky with the lunation. We talk about the astrological signs. So for this past one, we talked about the Capricorn full moon was about Ganesha. So we brought in aspects about the Hindu practice and how the parables from that can apply to today.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. And I know there's a lot of people who are definitely like into signs, and so I could imagine that's like a really a really popular, kind of event. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now I know another event, one of your upcoming events is Girl Dinner. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Girl Dinner is after the pop culture phenomenon that's happening now, talking about bite-sized meals that girls sometimes feel comfortable or not comfortable sharing online, because it can be stressful to be a woman from what I've heard. So it's like, it's a artist-led collective featuring that. So it's women only, talking about Girl Dinner and then having a kind of like slam poetry / dinner, an actual dinner on August 1st to bring those things together. It's kind of a throwback to what life used to be like for friend groups before cell phones.
Wow.
So it's a little more like being more present, being more honest, a little more open, and not as guarded as we sometimes can be now.
I like that, and I like that the organization has so many different areas for people who may be interested in one thing, and for others who are interested in something else. Can you tell me a little bit more in your experience, what you're most interested in being a part of this organization?
Yeah, so I have a studio at Soup. The entire length of Chinatown Soup, the front half is the rotating gallery, the back half is the shop, and then the entire basement is for the residency for artists. So during the day, I'm a full-time freelance photographer, and then at night, I make ritual candles, and that ties into the moon circle and other practices that I offer at Soup. And I think my favorite is being able to have a studio space where I can make my ritual candles.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the candles?
So it's, I think people would classify me as like a brujo, which is brujeria, which is magic. It's a bunch of words for the same thing. So I have a side company called Potencia, which is power in Spanish. And it's the idea that power isn't purchased or inherited, it's claimed. So it's helping teach people how to use ritual tools, tie into their own lineage, to find spirituality or religion, whatever they choose. Because it's like, it's not my job to pass judgment, but to kind of help people on their path, just like I was helped back in the day.
And I love that this is also a form of art, which I want to say, anything that's expression, I feel, is a form of art.
Absolutely.
You know, with that being said, how does your work as a candle maker, carver, you know, empower people across faith and, you know, kind of show people, although people have these ideas, you know, about it, how does it show people that this is also another form of art that can be appreciated?
Yes, I think it's super important to be an example of what you believe in. So for me, it's kind of bridging the gap between all these different words that kind of get jumbled around, like spell work, manifestation, prayer. To me, at the end of the day, it's all just different beats singing the same song. And I think that's super important to kind of thread that needle to unify people, because that's the one thing we kind of need right now. In a world that's immensely scary, having connectivity and community is life-saving for a lot of folks.
That's amazing. And how, you know, what was the response like? Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, the candle making classes and kind of what the response
Oh
has
yeah,
been in
it's
the
been
community?
incredible. It's definitely surprising because I used to be the kind of person that I used to hide this. I came out as gay when I was a freshman in high school, so the idea of coming out as a brujo and like doing it again to my family is like, there's no way, I could never. But it's something that I had to explore, and really it turned into something that I can use to help others, which that to me is meaningful, and that above all else is what I want to chase. I mean, I love doing photography. It's one of my favorite things, but the candle making, helping people who are struggling to find a voice, their voice or connection, it's a call I feel I always have to answer. It was done for me, and I think paying it forward like that is super important.
Now, how can people sign up for the candle making class or just learn a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so you can sign up by going to ChinatownSoup.nyc. My website is potencia.studio. There's a portal there for booking different appointments for either our Eventbrite classes or the different practitioners who are actually selling their services at Chinatown Soup as well. So we have myself making candles, we have an in-house tattoo artist, we have a Reiki healer, we have our wonderful tea connoisseur, Tim, who is the partner to the founder, and he does these tea sittings on Sunday, traditional loose leaf tea, with like meditation pairings, and it's a wonderful experience for folks who kind of want to detangle and kind of do something off the beaten track in New York City.
Now, I also understand that you're a Bronx native.
Yeah,
So can you
I
tell
live
us?
10 minutes away.
Yeah.
I walked here.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So how does that impact, you know, the work that you do and the services that you provide for people?
I feel like I bring my point of view to Manhattan a lot more. And I'm very proud of being from the BX. It's definitely been a struggle for me because I feel like when it came to art, I didn't mix around here as much as I should have. I bounced around. It was like Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island, the Bronx. So now to be where I'm at now, I love bringing that energy and like recommending folks to come like to the Bronx. There are things like the Zoo, the Botanical Garden, Wave Hill, Mott Haven, and reminding them that, like, you know, the Bronx isn't a snippet from an 80s movie anymore. You know, it's not Carlito's Way all the time. It's a very nuanced and complex place, and it should be treated as such.
Well, with that being said, I agree. And I'm from the Bronx as well, so I'd love to hear you say that and love to see that people from the Bronx are doing amazing things and kind of expanding. We want to stay here, but we also want to expand and share, you know,
it's important to just
what we
like
have.
spread that light.
Right.
Good
So
vibes.
with that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining us here at BronxNet and talking about the work that you do. We truly appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
To learn more about the work that Chinatown Soup does, please go to their website. We'll be back with more Open right after this. Welcome back. As we continue to endure extreme heat waves this summer, we want to revisit this interview with Alexandra Grose, Senior Counsel of Sustainability for Consumer Reports, discussing the financial impacts of climate change. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm really excited to talk about this because prior to learning a little bit more about this, I didn't know that there were actually financial consequences towards climate change. Before we talk about the personal finances and how it affects that, can we talk about, can you just give us a brief overview of how this issue is costly to the U.S. economy?
Absolutely. So today alone, the U.S. is spending about $150 billion per year in climate costs. On a global scale, we're looking at $38 trillion in economic damage by 2050. And this is largely due to, like you mentioned, heat waves, floods, droughts, extreme weather events. We're seeing damage to crops and agriculture, rising costs of food and healthcare. And not all populations are going to feel this equally. So there's a lot of variability, but we know it is going to cost everyone.
So I'm so glad we're getting the chance to talk about this because I think for many people, we just assumed climate change was affecting, obviously our ecosystem and the weather, but it's so much more than that. What inspired this study to explore how climate change actually affects the cost of our everyday lives?
Yeah, so those numbers I just mentioned are huge numbers. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around numbers like in the billions and trillions when you're not dealing with that in your everyday finances. So part of the impetus for this study was trying to boil it down to a really individual personal level, and try to figure out what it will cost a child born in 2024 over the course of their lifetime. I just had a baby last October, and so this is very
Congratulations.
for me. Thank you so much. But this is going to show what it's going to cost us, and what it's going to cost him over the course of his lifetime as well.
Oh, wow. So I'm so glad that you shared that with us because now it really puts it into perspective, what this could cost, a child born, recently in the future. So as I mentioned, it could cost a child born in 2024 or 2023 at least around $500,000 throughout their lifetime. And this is due to cost of living increases and reduced earnings. Can you just expand a little bit more on that finding? Because I know when I initially saw it, I was really shocked to see that number.
Absolutely. So CR commissioned a global consulting firm called ICF. They do studies for businesses and governments to determine what climate change will cost a child born in 2024. And they found that if we don't act swiftly, it's going to cost that child at least $500,000 over their lifetime, and possibly as much as $1 million. Their costs are going to go up and their income's going to go down. All of our daily costs like food and housing, transportation, and those expenses are going to go up around 9%. And their income is going to go down to around about 10%. So with higher living costs and lower income to pay for those costs, you're going to see an individual impact for sure.
Now, one of the major costs predicted to increase is housing related, reaching $125,000 in extra costs. Why is this one of the most expensive categories?
Yeah, so, I think housing costs generally are always going to be taking the biggest chunk out of our pocketbooks. I know for me personally, my mortgage, my insurance, and maintaining a house is what costs me the most in my budget. So not only is it just generally the biggest chunk of your budget, but we're going to be looking at, higher costs to maintain your home, because of these extreme weather events. Insurance costs are going up. It's going to cost more to heat and cool your home through energy costs. So that all really adds up quickly.
Now, how will it impact the way we get and afford food and groceries, which when I did initially look in the report, it's actually so much bigger than just going to the supermarket. I think it goes a little bit further to even how the food is even grown. Can you just expand on that a little bit more?
Absolutely. So, the extreme weather events I keep mentioning, they're going to affect farms and disrupt agriculture. They're going to reduce our access to food and impede the predictability that we have in getting those food to the grocery stores. This is all going to make everything less predictable. and everything's going to be more expensive. I know, the cost of groceries is already really high right now, and we're most likely looking at a further increase of those costs when we have these extreme weather events.
And can you expand a little bit more about, you said like on farms or the agriculture? Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean the weather's changing every year. We're seeing drier weather in some areas that weren't experiencing that before, and we're seeing flooding in areas that haven't experienced that before. A lot of food that comes from California is experiencing more wildfires than ever. So all of these things add up, and really are going to affect our agriculture ecosystem, where we get a lot of our local organic sourced food from.
Now, I was surprised to see that healthcare was at the lowest at 5,000 in extra costs, but I'm curious to know what impact could this have in a country where thousands of people already struggle with healthcare costs and just receiving healthcare in general.
Yeah, so the $5,000 is almost certainly an underestimate. We tried to be very conservative with these numbers, just to make sure, we're doing two scenarios. One's the lowest cost and one's the highest cost scenario. But it only includes estimates from heat-related and respiratory illnesses. It's not including, increases in certain infectious diseases, injuries from extreme weather events. There's a lot that's not included in this estimate that in reality we're going to be dealing with. So, in the real world, but for Americans already struggling to afford healthcare, any incremental increase in healthcare costs is going to really be a big burden.
Right.
Um,
And I'm so glad that you said that because climate change is also expected to affect our health in general. Just like especially people in lower income communities, they deal with a little bit, they face more health challenges in regard to climate change. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Absolutely. I think, low income and disadvantaged communities, communities of color are always going to face the brunt of disasters like this harder than other populations. We also are going to see, geographically, depending on where you live, you're going to be dealing with, more severe instances of, you might have your insurance rates go up. You might have it taken away altogether, depending on the flooding, fires, like I mentioned before. So geographic location, as well as your income bracket, where you live. This is all going to have sort of a variation on how hard you have to deal with this, and the challenges that you're going to face.
Now, I heard you mention this number before, but I definitely want to touch on it again because it is a huge number. Over time, ICF researchers suspect losses could reach $1 million, which is a lot of money. Why is this number expected to climb so high?
Yeah, so I think that, like I mentioned, the 500,000 is a conservative estimate, but the real world costs are likely to be much, much higher. A lot of this depends on what we do. The extent of the future of climate change is going to be affected by greenhouse gas emissions, determined by society's energy choices and behavior. So, we're looking at what our business is doing, what our government's doing, but also what our consumers and individuals doing. So all of these choices that we're making now is going to have a really big impact on what our children have to deal with in the future.
Now, I also, as you mentioned, it is the future. I'm curious to know how is climate change currently affecting adults and their personal finances currently?
Yeah, I think, today we are already seeing costs rise. We're already seeing insurance companies withdrawing their coverage, raising premiums. We're seeing food costs go up. I think this study particularly looks on what it's going to look like in the future, but there are things we can do today to mitigate what's going to happen later on.
And can you expand on, what we can do now, just so that in the future these costs will be significantly lower?
Yeah, I think if you can take one thing away from this, it's that we need to act now to make sure that we don't end up with the worst case scenario. We can affect the we can mitigate the effects of climate change from our choices now. But we recognize it's not only up to the individual consumer. So we're pushing for businesses and governments to step up and do the right thing. We're working on things like making sure automakers reduce emissions from cars, making appliances more efficient. But for folks who want to take steps in their personal life to reduce their climate impact and save money, Consumer Reports has a lot of resources on their website at cr.org, and steps you can take in your own home to help with these challenges and reduce these costs.
All right, well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. It was very interesting, and I definitely learned a lot today. So once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
To learn more about this report, please go to their website at www.cr.org. We'd like to thank the team at Consumer Reports for working with us and educating our viewers about important issues. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Check your pulse and turn off your phone. Get ready to be entertained. The Bronx Education is back, and we've got more youth voices, educational partnerships, exciting global discoveries with Alexi Gingertopoulos, dollar store science experiments with Dr. Whitey Black, and tons of ways for you to engage with us as we bring laughter and knowledge right to your doorstep. Me and the crew welcome you to Season 3 of the Bronx Education. The new season of the Bronx Education is here. Every Monday at 4:30 p.m. on Channel 67 Optimum, 2133 Fios.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. .5% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. .34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Kyrie Thompson, the lead stylist for Lumiere Clothing, has worked and styled for numerous companies and notable figures from British Vogue to Harper's Bazaar. Hailing from Brooklyn, the stylist and creative director joins us in studio here in the Bronx to share his inspiring journey through the fashion industry. Kyrie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, I'm so excited to learn a little bit more about you and the work that you do. First of all, can you just tell us, about your journey? What made you go from truck driver to stylist and creative director?
Well, I worked many styling jobs. I worked for UPS, FedEx, and briefly for Amazon. And I just felt very unfulfilled, being there. And it was a very gritty, environment. You're like fighting for spots and, fighting to stay within the company. But I just wanted to do my own thing. So I just went back to the drawing board and figured out like what did I love to do like growing up. And I was always in the arts, even like down to middle school. I would do productions and I was like Simba for Lion King and everything. So it was pretty cool. But then I was like, how can I, make money from doing something that I love to do? I always dress differently than my peers. So I was down to fashion, so I just started getting my feet wet. I did New York Fashion Week for the first time. A very small show, small production, but I made a BTS video and it went viral. So from then on, I just kept it going. I did personal shopping after a while, and then I just went into editorial and creative styling and creative directing.
Now, what I think is so amazing is your background as a New Yorker, which is, I think, probably like one of the pillars of fashion, here in New York. Can you talk about how the city influences your approach to styling?
So in New York, people really don't care about anything. Like, I mean, obviously we do, but like the attitude that we have, we're just the superstars of the world. So I tend to, carry myself as such and, try to shed my light wherever I go and show people, like you could do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want to do it. Just be professional. Yeah.
Now, with that, I also want to expand on that and say, like, do you think coming from New York has encouraged you to kind of be more experimental with your fashion because, there's so many people here and people kind of don't care?
Absolutely. So one of the greatest benefits about being in New York is that it's a melting pot and you're meeting people from all over the world. So getting into the industry, I'm meeting people from Paris, from Berlin, from Milan, from Japan even, and I'm seeing like, their different styles and what they bring to the table. And I'm like, you know what? I could do this a little better than they can. So it's a little bit of like friendly competition when I'm like dressing and stuff, but I really do it for me, So I just like to show people that I can do this too.
Now, talking about some of the places that you've mentioned, I understand that you returned from Paris Fashion Week. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how did you get the opportunity?
Oh my God. Paris Fashion Week calendar came out a couple months ago, and I just asked all these designers if I could just come to the show. It's my first time in Paris. Me and my girlfriend were super excited, and we just went. Some of the biggest designers actually let us come to their show and everything, and then I connected with the PRs, and now I have a whole bunch of connections when I go back to Europe. So it's not just Paris. It's also Milan and Berlin and Copenhagen. Thank you guys so much for letting me come and spread my wings.
That's amazing. Now, I want to talk about something called KYM Visuals.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how it started?
So Kim Visuals is a production company by me, my friend Yannick Taylor, and Matt Hahn. We're all from different backgrounds. Yannick and I are Jamaican, and Matt is from South Korea. But we formed this really cool team. I met Matt Hahn years ago when we did the British Vogue and Harper's Bazaar advertisement for Maui X Lolita. So from then on, we just built our chemistry as a team. He's a photographer. Yannick, he came on later on. He's a producer. He handles like lighting and coloring and everything, editing as well. And I'm the creative director and stylist. So we just keep creating these very cool, high fashion editorials. And we also do like campaigns and video shoots and a whole bunch of stuff. So we're a multidisciplinary creative agency, basically.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love to hear that you're kind of like experiencing and doing so many different things within the realm of fashion, because it is photography, it is production work.
It's so
many layers to fashion. Yeah,
and everything.
Yeah. So I also heard that you mentioned the Maui X Lolita runway show. Can you tell me a little bit more about that experience?
Maui and Lolita, I've been styling backstage of their runway show for years. Our upcoming show is on, I think, September 7th. We'll be doing 50-piece collection this time. It's gonna be really cool. We have a nice big venue in the heart of Manhattan. Working for Maui X Lolita has been an experience. They got me like my first real, fashion experience. I'm doing PR, I'm doing event coordination. I'm also reaching out for partnerships and sponsorships and, just communicating, learning email language, learning how to, meet with people and talk to them to, get a partnership out of them. Or it's just a lot that goes into the fashion industry, and people, they only see the forefront, the big stores and everything, but there's so much going on in the back end that people aren't educated about,
I definitely want to expand on that because we have a lot of young people, especially, we're in New York. So many people love fashion. They want to get into that industry. But as you mentioned, a lot of people think it's just the surface level, what you wear, maybe the camera. But, you're kind of talking about the importance of the behind the scenes stuff and the networking part. Can you talk about the importance of networking within the fashion industry?
Oh my God. So networking is so important. Networking has got me all of my opportunities, all of them. And, we're going to get into me working at Gucci and stuff, but, it's gotten me all of my opportunities. Just talking to people, mentioning I do this and, I can also help out with this, or just offering your services. Just knowing how to talk to people has gotten me everywhere in this industry.
That's amazing. Now, I want to talk about some of the work that you've done. I understand that you collaborated with photographer Nicole Wilson. Can you tell me a little bit more about that collaboration?
So Nicole Wilson is an award-winning photographer. We have collabed on at least 10 photo shoots so far. We just recently did Harper's Bazaar, The Age of Enlightenment. Check it out. I partnered with some of my favorite designers for the photo shoot, and every photo shoot we do, we get better and better and better and better. So we're also building chemistry like Kim Visuals. Nicole Wilson is a phenomenal photographer. She has work everywhere. You can find her on Instagram at Nicole Wilson Photography. She has been like a real, she's pushed me forward in the industry and, allowed me to figure out different facets of styling. So
that's amazing.
cool.
And I love to hear the way you talk about another colleague, because I think that's also so important. It's not just about you and the work that you do, but kind of, propping up the people that you've worked with and, people who give you a chance. So it's so lovely to hear the way you talk about the people that you work with. I like that.
Thank you.
Now, many people dream of, what you're doing right now, especially working with a lot of designer companies like Gucci. Can you tell me a little bit more? Because that's kind of like a really big brand. So what was that experience like?
So a friend of mine is actually one of Gucci's top salesmen in the world. So he just put in the word for me, and now I'm about to step into sales for Gucci and eventually work my way up in the company. I have used like a lot of their pieces for styling as well, so they also took that into account when recruiting me. So I'm really excited about the opportunity. Gucci is my favorite brand, my first love for fashion, and I'm just super excited to be able to bring my talents to Kering Group, build my own book, get some more VIP clients, and just step more closer towards success.
Now, when we talk about fashion, we're obviously talking about, how it's just a global thing that so many people love, but we have to bring it back to New York. We know that New York Fashion Week is going to be coming up very soon.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your plans for New York Fashion Week?
New York Fashion Week is always, it's very spontaneous. I never know what I'm doing until like the week before Fashion Week is happening. The only thing I know for sure is that I'll be working my way slowly is runway again. Lumiere should be doing a presentation, like an introductory presentation, because of course we're like posting on social media and everything, but the people want to see the clothing in person. So we'll be doing something for New York Fashion Week, and I'll be going to shows, of course, and, stepping out for street style, getting shot by Vogue, of course, and I'm super excited about it every time.
That sounds like so much fun. I just want to say that out there. Now, for people who want to be a little bit more stylish and a little bit more fashionable, what tips would you give somebody if they're kind of just starting that journey?
Well, it's all about self-expression when finding your style. So how are you feeling that day? Your mood always matters. What do you feel like wearing? What character do you want to be today? What hairstyle do you want to do? What type of makeup do you want to do? What ambiance do you want to give off when people look at you, when people see you? And don't be afraid to try new things. Trying new things has got me where I am, and you don't feel like, you're conforming to the sayings and phrases that people say when, you're moving forward in the industry or trying to dim your light. Just do your thing and don't care about what anyone says. Just do your thing. Yeah.
That's amazing. And then, talking for people who want to work in this industry, it's very competitive. A lot of people want this. What advice would you give to maybe somebody who's maybe just graduated high school or just graduated college who wants to step into this industry?
So I would say start as early as possible. Like straight out of high school, if I could do this all over again, I would go straight towards all the artistic and fashion programs that a college may have, or try to do an internship at a fashion brand or something. Like, try to find internships, talk to people, connect with people, do research as well, because doing research has got me where I'm at today as well. And send emails. Don't be afraid to email these big companies. Someone will reply to you and someone will give you advice. Just don't be afraid.
Right, and I feel like even if the worst they could say is no.
Yeah, exactly.
And at least that means you were seen. Maybe they'll
Right.
remember you again
Exactly.
in the future.
They will direct you to the right place.
That's
I'll tell you that
amazing.
much.
And I also want to add that, about starting early, a lot of people kind of wait
Yeah.
to kind of follow
Yeah.
their dreams.
It's a common thing. I was just talking to a friend yesterday. I was telling him, you should start painting, but people don't realize their hidden talents or what talents they have until way later on. So I would say, like, really dig into the person that you are, and if you can draw, if you could put clothes together, if you could do anything, just try to do it in a bigger platform. On a bigger platform, yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit, more about the work that you've done. I was inspired, honestly, already, just because it is nice to see people talk about what they're passionate about, and your journey from, like you said, working with UPS to kind of now working with Vogue, I think is truly amazing, and I hope it inspires so many people watching today. So once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, of course.
To learn more about Kyrie's work, please visit the website at kyriethompson.com. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.